The stars around Earth burned with the fires of a dying civilization. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers across the darkness of space, each one marking the death of a human ship or station. Admiral James Chen stood on the bridge of the carrier Indomitable, watching his fleet die piece by piece on the tactical display before him. "Sir, the Beijing is gone. The Moscow reports critical damage to its main engines." Lieutenant Parker's voice was steady, but Chen could hear the exhaustion beneath it. They had been fighting for 3 days straight. 3 days of hell. The Krithian Dominion had come to Earth with overwhelming force. Their ships were massive things covered in dark armor that seemed to swallow light itself. They had swept through humanity's outer colonies like a storm, destroying everything in their path. Now they were here, at humanity's birthplace, and they would not stop until Earth was theirs. Chen watched another icon blink red and disappear from his screen. The destroyer Valiant gone with all hands. 500 souls just like that. He clenched his fist so hard his nails bit into his palm. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 17 capital ships still combat capable, sir. Maybe 40 smaller vessels." Parker paused. The Krithians still have over 200. The numbers were impossible. Chen had known they were losing from the start, but he had hoped, prayed even, that somehow they could hold on long enough for a miracle. But miracles did not exist in the cold math of warfare. The Krithians had more ships, better weapons, and stronger shields. Humanity had courage and desperation, and those were not enough. On the view screen, Chen could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Fires dotted its surface where Krithian bombardment had struck population centers. New York was burning. Tokyo had gone dark hours ago. How many millions had already died? How many more would join them before this was over? "Admiral, the Krithian flagship is charging weapons again. They're targeting our position." The tactical officer's hands moved across his console, bringing up defensive systems that Chen knew would not be enough. "All ships, evasive pattern Delta. Get us out of their main firing arc." Chen's orders were calm, practiced. He had been a military man for 30 years. He knew how to face death without flinching. The Indomitable shuddered as its engines pushed it into a sharp turn. Around it, the remnants of Earth's defense fleet scattered like frightened birds. But they were not birds. They were warriors, and even in defeat, they would make the Krithians pay for every inch of space. A beam of purple energy lanced out from the Krithian flagship, missing the Indomitable by less than a kilometer. The beam struck the frigate Adelaide instead, cutting through its hull like a hot knife through butter. The ship broke apart in silence, spilling atmosphere and bodies into the void. Chen closed his eyes for just a moment. When he opened them again, his face was set like stone. Return fire, all batteries. The Indomitable's railgun spoke with thunder, sending solid slugs of metal screaming toward the enemy at a fraction of light speed. They struck the Krithian flagship's shields and exploded into clouds of plasma. The shields held. They always held. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the lunar stations. The Krithians have landing craft heading for the surface. They're going to invade the moon." Parker looked up from his console, his young face pale with fear. Chen wanted to help them. He wanted to save everyone. But he could not. He had to choose, and the choice was clear even if it broke his heart. "We cannot spare any ships. Tell the lunar garrison they are on their own. May God have mercy on them." The words tasted like ash in his mouth. He was abandoning thousands of people to save millions. It was the right choice, the only choice, but that did not make it easier. "Admiral." The sensor officer suddenly stood up, his eyes wide. "Sir, I'm detecting something." A massive gravimetric anomaly bearing 270, distance 300,000 kilometers. Chen frowned. "What kind of anomaly? Is it another Krithian fleet?" "I don't know, sir. It's huge, whatever it is. The readings are like nothing I've ever seen. It's like there's something there, something big, but our sensors can't get a lock on it. It's like it's hiding." A chill ran down Chen's spine. Something was out there watching them. Something that had been hiding while Earth burned. Friend or foe? He had no way to know. Keep monitoring it. If it moves toward us, I want to know immediately. Chen turned back to the tactical display, but his mind was racing. What could be out there? What would hide during a battle like this? The Krithians pressed their attack. More human ships died. Their names and crews added to the long list of the fallen. The defense fleet was being pushed back, forced away from Earth and toward the moon. Soon they would have nowhere left to run. Chen looked at the countdown timer on his display. At the current rate of losses, his fleet would be combat ineffective in less than 2 hours. After that, Earth would be defenseless. The Krithians would land their armies, and humanity would become slaves or corpses, perhaps both. Sir, the anomaly is still there. It hasn't moved. Whatever it is, it's just watching. The sensor officer sounded frightened now. Watching. The word echoed in Chen's mind. Something was watching Earth die and doing nothing to help. Anger flared in his chest, hot and fierce. If there was someone out there who could help but chose not to, then they were as guilty as the Krithians themselves. Broadcast on all frequencies. Tell whoever or whatever is out there that if they have any humanity in them, any decency at all, now is the time to show it. Earth is dying. If they can help and choose not to, then they are cowards and we curse their names with our last breath. Parker looked shocked. Sir, is that wise? We don't know what's out there. I don't care. If they're here to kill us, they can get in line behind the Krithians. If they're here to help, then damn them for waiting this long. The message went out across every radio frequency, every laser communication channel, a desperate plea from a dying world to an unknown observer. For a long moment, nothing happened. The battle raged on. More ships died. The Krithian fleet advanced, unstoppable and merciless. Then the sensor officer gasped. Admiral, the anomaly, it's changing. The gravimetric readings are spiking. Something's happening. Chen spun toward the view screen. In the darkness of space between Earth and the advancing Krithian fleet, the stars began to shimmer and twist. Reality itself seemed to bend, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. And then, like a curtain being pulled back, something appeared. It was a ship. A human ship, Chen realized with shock. But it was like no human ship he had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Indomitable, and its hull was sleek and perfect, covered in armor that seemed to drink in the starlight. Symbols marked its side, symbols Chen recognized. The flag of the United Earth Defense Force, his flag, but that was impossible. The ship hung in space like a sword drawn from its sheath, ready for battle. Every weapon on the Krithian fleet swung to face this new threat. Chen's fleet held its fire, confused and amazed in equal measure. Then a transmission came through, crackling with static but clear enough to understand. A woman's voice, strong and confident. This is the UEDS Prometheus responding to Terra's distress call. We've been waiting for the right moment. We're coming home, and we're ready to fight. Chen stared at the massive ship on his view screen, hope blooming in his chest for the first time in days. The name rang in his mind like a bell. Prometheus, the titan who brought fire to humanity. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had brought fire to Earth one more time. Admiral Chen stared at the massive ship that had appeared from nowhere. The Prometheus hung in space like a promise, like a dream made solid. Around him, the bridge crew of the Indomitable stood frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. Get me a line to that ship, now. Chen's voice snapped his crew out of their shock. Lieutenant Parker's hands flew across his console, opening communication channels. The woman's voice came through again, clearer this time. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Prometheus. I know you have questions. I know this seems impossible, but right now the Krithians are regrouping for another attack. We need to work together if we're going to save Earth. Chen's mind raced. How did this woman know his name? Where had this ship come from? The design was clearly human, but the technology on display was far beyond anything Earth's engineers had created. The ship's hull alone looked like it was made from materials that should not exist. Captain Vasquez, identify yourself. What fleet are you with? Where did you come from? Chen needed answers, but even as he asked the questions, he knew they could wait. The Krithians would not give them time for a long conversation. There was a pause on the other end. Then Vasquez spoke again, her voice careful. Admiral, the truth is going to sound crazy. The Prometheus is from Earth, but not the Earth you know. We're from 200 years in your future. We came back to this moment because in our timeline, Earth fell today. Everyone died. We're here to change that. The bridge went silent. Time travel. The woman was claiming they had traveled through time. It was impossible. It violated every law of physics Chen knew. And yet the ship existed. It was real. He could see it with his own eyes. Prove it, Chen said flatly. Your wife's name is Sarah. You have 2 daughters, Emma and Lisa. Emma is studying medicine at Oxford. Lisa wants to be a pilot like her father, but you're afraid to let her join the military. You keep a photo of them in your left breast pocket over your heart. Vasquez's voice was gentle. In my timeline, you died in the next hour. Your last words were, "Tell them I love them." Chen's hand moved unconsciously to his pocket, feeling the outline of the photograph he kept there. His throat tightened. No one on the bridge knew those details except him. Even Parker, who had served with him for years, did not know about Lisa's dreams of becoming a pilot. "How do you know this?" Chen whispered. "Because in my timeline I read your biography. You became a hero, Admiral. The man who held the line even when all hope was gone. But heroes don't change the fact that Earth burned and billions died." Vasquez paused. "We came back to make sure that doesn't happen. We came back to save everyone." Chen looked at the tactical display. The Crithian fleet was indeed regrouping, forming up for what would likely be their final assault. His 17 ships could not stop them. But maybe, just maybe, with this mysterious ship from the future, they had a chance. "What do you need from us, Captain?" Chen asked. "Trust, Admiral. And coordination. The Prometheus has weapons and technology that can hurt the Crithians, but we're still just one ship. We need your fleet to work with us. I'm sending over tactical data, now study it. You'll see patterns in the Crithian formations, weak points in their shields. We've been watching this battle, learning everything we can." Data began flooding into the Indomitable's computers. Parker pulled it up on the main screen, and Chen saw immediately what Vasquez meant. The tactical analysis was incredibly detailed, showing vulnerabilities in the Crithian ships that Chen's own sensors had missed. Shield harmonics, power distribution patterns, even the response times of their weapon systems. It was intelligence that should have taken months to gather, but it was all there, perfect and precise. "This is incredible," Parker breathed. "If this data is accurate, we can actually hurt them." "It's accurate, Lieutenant," Vasquez said. "We fought the Crithians before. In our timeline, Earth's fleet bought us time to study them. You bought us that time, Admiral, with your lives. Now we're using what we learned to finish what you started." Chen made his decision. It did not matter if he fully understood what was happening. What mattered was saving Earth. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We have a new ally. The Prometheus will coordinate our attack. Follow their lead and trust the tactical data they're providing. This is our chance to push the Crithians back. Don't waste it." Acknowledgements came back from the surviving ships of the fleet. Chen could hear the hope in their voices, the desperate need to believe that they could win. "Prometheus, what's your battle plan?" Chen asked. "We're going to hit them hard and fast. My ship has weapons they've never seen before. While they're focused on us, your fleet will exploit the vulnerabilities in their formations. We'll cut through their vanguard, then wheel around for a second pass. By then they'll be in disarray. That's when we push them back toward the outer system." It was aggressive, maybe too aggressive, but Chen had learned long ago that desperate times called for bold action. "Understood. My fleet is ready." "On your signal, Captain. Signal in 30 seconds. Prometheus out." Chen watched the mysterious ship on his view screen. He could see it more clearly now. Its hull was covered in strange markings, wear patterns that spoke of battles fought and survived. This was not a fresh ship from a shipyard. This was a veteran, a warrior that had seen war and come through it scarred but unbroken. "All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage." Chen's orders were crisp. Around him, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had done this dance before many times, but this time felt different. This time they had hope. The Prometheus began to move. It accelerated smoothly, faster than any ship Chen had ever seen. Its engines left trails of blue-white light that looked almost like wings. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Prometheus is engaging," Parker shouted. The future ship dove into the Crithian formation like a hawk among pigeons. Its weapons fired, and Chen gasped at what he saw. Beams of golden light lanced out, striking Crithian shields and burning through them like they were paper. A Crithian cruiser exploded, torn apart by weapons it had no defense against. Another tried to turn away, but the Prometheus was too fast. It rolled, firing from multiple angles, and the Crithian ship died in a ball of purple flame. "All ships, advance. Follow the Prometheus," Chen ordered. His fleet surged forward, their own weapons targeting the weak points that Vasquez had identified. Railgun rounds punched through damaged shields. Missiles found exposed hull sections. For the first time in 3 days, Crithian ships were dying faster than human ones. The battle became a storm of light and fury. The Prometheus moved through the enemy formation like a dancer, graceful and deadly. Chen watched in awe as it demonstrated technology that seemed like magic. Shields that shimmered with rainbow colors and bent incoming fire away. Weapons that appeared and disappeared, folding out of the hull when needed and vanishing when not. Even its movements defied what Chen knew about ship design. It turned too quickly, accelerated too fast. It was as if the ship ignored the normal rules of physics. "Admiral, the Crithian flagship is pulling back." Parker's voice was excited. "They're retreating." Chen could hardly believe it. The massive Crithian command ship, the vessel that had led the assault on Earth, was turning away from the battle. Around it, the rest of the Crithian fleet began to disengage, their formations breaking apart as they sought to escape the fury of the Prometheus. "Don't let them regroup. Keep the pressure on," Chen ordered. But even as he spoke, he knew his fleet was exhausted. His ships had been fighting for days. They were low on ammunition, their crews running on stimulants and desperation. The Prometheus, however, showed no signs of slowing down. It pursued the retreating Crithians, its weapons cutting down stragglers with methodical precision. The message was clear. Earth was no longer defenseless. Earth had teeth now. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the Crithian fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, vanishing from Earth's space. They were gone. The battle was over. For a moment, silence filled the bridge of the Indomitable. Then someone started cheering. The sound spread, growing louder as the reality sank in. They had won. Against all odds, against impossible numbers, they had driven the Crithians away from Earth. Chen allowed himself a small smile. Then he opened a channel to the Prometheus. "Captain Vasquez, on behalf of Earth and her people, thank you. You saved us." Vasquez's voice came back, but now Chen could hear the weariness in it. "Don't thank me yet, Admiral. We won the battle, but the war is far from over. The Crithians will be back and they'll bring more ships. We need to talk, you and I. There are things you need to know. Things about why the Crithians came here in the first place." The joy on the bridge faded a little. Chen felt a chill run through him. "What do you mean? Can you come aboard the Prometheus? Bring your senior staff. What I have to tell you, I'd rather do it face to face." Vasquez sounded grim. "You won the battle today, Admiral. But I'm about to tell you about a war that makes the Crithian invasion look like a small problem, and we have very little time to prepare." The shuttle from the Indomitable docked with the Prometheus, and Admiral Chen felt his breath catch as he stepped into the future ship. Everything was different. The walls seemed to glow with a soft light that came from nowhere and everywhere. The corridors were wider, smoother, and the air tasted cleaner than any ship air he had ever breathed. It was like stepping into a dream. "Admiral Chen, welcome aboard." Captain Elena Vasquez stood waiting for him. She was younger than Chen had expected, maybe in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her uniform was similar to current UEDF design, but refined, more elegant. Her eyes held the look of someone who had seen too much war. Behind Chen, Lieutenant Parker and Commander Harris, his tactical officer, looked around with open amazement. Chen understood their feeling. The ship represented everything humanity might become, given time and peace. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. "Captain Vasquez, your ship is remarkable," Chen said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Please, call me Elena. And thank you, but the Prometheus isn't really mine. It belongs to all of us, to humanity's future." She gestured down the corridor. "Come. We have much to discuss, and I'm afraid some of it will be hard to hear." They walked through the ship, passing crew members who nodded respectfully. Chen noticed their faces, the way they looked at him and his officers. There was something in their expressions, a kind of sadness mixed with determination. These people knew something terrible, and they carried that knowledge like a weight. Elena led them to a conference room that overlooked the ship's main hangar. Through the windows, Chen could see fighters and small craft that looked impossibly sleek and deadly. Everything here spoke of a civilization that had been fighting for survival and had learned to do it very, very well. "Please sit." Elena took a seat at the head of the table and pulled up a holographic display. Chen was used to holographic technology, but this was different. The image was perfectly solid-looking, with colors that seemed more real than reality. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but you've already accepted that we came from the future, so maybe you'll be ready for the rest." She tapped a control, and the display showed Earth, beautiful and blue. Then the image changed, showing the planet covered in black geometric structures that looked like tumors growing on the surface. "In my timeline, this happened 50 years from now, but somehow the timeline has changed. I believe our presence here, our interference, has accelerated events. They're coming much sooner than they did before. Who's coming? Commander Harris asked, leaning forward. We call them the Voidborn. Elena's voice was heavy. They're not from our galaxy. They came from the space between galaxies, from the void itself. They're machines. Or maybe they're something that transcended biology so long ago that they forgot they were ever alive. They consume everything, every world they find, every species, every trace of life. They take it all and turn it into more of themselves. The hologram showed ships, if they could be called that. Geometric nightmares of black crystal and impossible angles. They moved through space like sharks through water, graceful and utterly without mercy. They destroyed Earth? Chen asked quietly. They destroyed everything. Earth, Mars, all of humanity's colonies. Then they moved on to our neighbors, to the other species in our part of the galaxy. In my time, we estimate they consumed 50 billion souls before we even understood what they were. Elena's hands clenched on the table. The Crethians know about them. That's why they came to Earth. Parker spoke up, confused. Wait, I don't understand. The Crethians invaded us. They were trying to conquer Earth. No. Elena shook her head. They were trying to take Earth's resources and population before the Voidborn arrived. The Crethian Dominion has been running from the Voidborn for years. They've lost half their empire. They came to Earth because we're rich in resources and we have billions of people who could be soldiers, workers, engineers. In their own way, they were trying to save us by enslaving us. The room fell silent. Chen tried to process what he was hearing. The Crethians, humanity's terrible enemy, were themselves running from something worse. It was almost too much to believe. How long do we have? Chen asked. Days, maybe a week. The Voidborn's arrival has been accelerated by our presence here. They're drawn to temporal anomalies, to disruptions in space-time. The Prometheus created a massive disruption when we traveled back. We rang a dinner bell, Admiral, and something heard it. Elena looked at each of them in turn. I'm sorry. We came here to save Earth, but we may have just moved up the date of its destruction. Commander Harris stood up, anger on his face. Then why did you come? If you knew this would happen, why risk it? Because in my timeline, Earth fell to the Crethians today, and then the Voidborn came 50 years later when humanity was scattered and weak. We had no chance. At least this way, Earth is still here. Humanity is united, and we have technology and knowledge that can help. Elena stood as well, meeting Harris's anger with calm resolve. We didn't come back to doom Earth, we came back to give it a fighting chance. Chen raised a hand, quieting his officer. What's your plan, Captain? Elena smiled grimly. We need to do something that would have been unthinkable yesterday. We need to ally with the Crethians. Absolutely not, Harris shouted. They killed millions of our people. They destroyed our cities. And the Voidborn will kill billions if we don't stop them, Elena shot back. I understand your anger, Commander. I really do. But the Crethians are not our enemy. They're refugees running from annihilation. They made terrible choices, but they did it out of desperation. Now we're all desperate together. Chen thought about it. Every instinct in his body screamed against working with the Crethians. But he had not survived 30 years in the military by ignoring hard truths. If what Elena said was true, then humanity needed every ally it could get. How do we convince them? Chen asked. The Crethians just lost a major battle. They're not going to trust us. We offer them what they came here for in the first place. Not slavery, but partnership. We share Earth's resources. We work together to build defenses. We combine our technology and our forces. Elena brought up a new hologram, showing ship designs that blended human and Crethian elements. In my timeline, we only learned to work together after both our species were nearly extinct. This time we do it before it's too late. And if they refuse? Parker asked. Then we fight the Voidborn alone and probably die. Elena's voice was flat. I won't lie to you. Our chances are not good either way. But together we have a chance. Apart, we have none. Chen made his decision. Set up a meeting. I'll talk to the Crethian Dominus. If we can convince them that we're not trying to trick them, maybe we can make this work. Over the next hours, communications went back and forth between Earth's fleet and the retreating Crethians. It was delicate work. Both sides had just been trying to kill each other. Trust was in short supply, but slowly, carefully, Elena and Chen built a case. They shared information about the Voidborn. They showed the Crethians data from the future, evidence that could not be faked. And finally, they made their offer. The Crethian Dominus, leader of their empire, agreed to meet. The meeting would take place on neutral ground. aboard a station that orbited between Earth and the Moon. Both sides would bring limited forces. Both sides would have the chance to speak and be heard. The day of the meeting, Chen found himself in the same room as the being who had ordered the destruction of human cities. The Dominus was tall, nearly 3 meters, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed with a faint purple light. Its voice when it spoke was like rocks grinding together. You say you come from the future. You say the Voidborn are coming. Why should we believe you? The Dominus's translator rendered its words in flat, emotionless English. Elena stepped forward. She held up a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared showing a Crithian world. Beautiful cities of crystal and metal. Then the image shifted, showing the same world covered in Voidborn structures. The cities gone, the land dead. This is Crithia Prime, your homeworld. This is what the Voidborn did to it in my timeline. The Dominus went very still. Around the room, its guards shifted, their weapons clicking nervously. Crithia Prime is lost to us. The Voidborn took it 2 years ago. How do you know what it looked like before? Because in my timeline, some of your people survived and allied with humanity. They showed us the records, the histories. We mourned together for what was lost. Elena's voice was gentle now. Dominus, I know you see us as primitives, as obstacles. But we're not. We're potential allies, potential friends. And right now, friendship is the only thing that's going to save either of our species. The Dominus looked at Chen. And you agree with this, Admiral? You would ally with those who killed your people? Chen met the alien's glowing eyes. I would do anything to save Earth, including working with you. The question is, will you do the same to save your people? For a long moment, the Dominus was silent. Then it spoke, its voice carrying a weight that filled the room. In my culture, we have a saying. The enemy of my enemy is the beginning of wisdom. Very well. We will stand with you against the Voidborn. We will share our strength with yours. And perhaps if we survive, we will learn to see each other differently. Elena nodded. Then we have where Earth's orbit had become a construction yard unlike anything in history. Human and Crithian ships worked side by side, sharing technology and building defenses. Massive weapons platforms grew in space like steel flowers, bristling with guns from both species. Energy shield generators the size of skyscrapers floated into position, ready to protect the planet below. Admiral Chen stood aboard the Prometheus, watching the work through the observation deck. 5 days had passed since the alliance was formed, 5 days of frantic preparation for an enemy that could arrive at any moment. He had barely slept, running on coffee and determination. It's amazing how fast people can work when they know they're going to die otherwise, Elena said, joining him at the window. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. But there was also pride in her expression. We've upgraded 30% of your fleet with Prometheus technology. The Crithians have shared their shield designs. It's more progress than I dared hope for. Chen nodded. Your engineers are incredible. They've been teaching our people things that should take years to learn. And the Crithians, I have to admit, their technology is impressive. Their power generation systems are far beyond ours. Different species, different strengths. That's why working together makes us stronger. Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the defensive network. The orbital platforms are almost complete. We've got 3 layers of shields that can cover the entire planet, and the combined fleet is positioned to intercept any attack before it reaches Earth. Will it be enough? Chen asked the question that haunted him every waking moment. Honestly, I don't know. In my timeline, we had 50 years to prepare and we still barely survived. Now we have 5 days, Elena sighed. But we have advantages too. The Prometheus and its technology. The combined strength of 3 species working together. And we know the Voidborn's tactics. We've studied them, fought them, learned their patterns. A young officer approached one of Elena's crew. Captain, we're receiving a request from Lieutenant Vasquez. She wants permission to visit the Prometheus. Elena's face went still for a moment. Maria, she's here? Yes, ma'am. Her fighter squadron was assigned to defend the station. She says she heard about the Prometheus and wanted to see it. The officer looked curious. Do you know her, Captain? Chen watched Elena carefully. He had learned to read her expressions over the past few days. Right now, she looked like someone facing a ghost. Send her up, Elena said quietly. I'll meet her in observation deck 3. The officer left and Chen raised an eyebrow. Want to tell me what that was about? Elena smiled sadly. Maria Vasquez is my grandmother. Or she will be in about 50 years. In my timeline, she died in the defense of Mars. I've seen pictures of her, read her service record. But I've never met her. She died before I was born. and now you have a chance to talk to her. Chen understood. Do you want privacy? No, please stay. I think I need a friend right now. Elena walked to the observation deck she had specified, a smaller, quieter room with a view of Earth. 10 minutes later, the door opened, and a young woman in a pilot's flight suit walked in. She was in her early 20s with the same dark hair as Elena and a confident way of moving that reminded Chen of the captain. She saluted crisply. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez reporting, ma'am. I wanted to thank the crew of the Prometheus personally for saving Earth. Elena returned the salute, then smiled warmly. At ease, Lieutenant. I'm Captain Elena Vasquez. I've heard good things about your squadron. You fought well in the battle. Maria's eyes widened. Vasquez, are we related? That would be something, wouldn't it? Yes, it would be something. Elena's voice was thick with emotion. Tell me, Lieutenant, what made you want to be a pilot? They talked for an hour. Chen watched as Elena asked careful questions, learning about Maria's life, her dreams, her fears. Maria wanted to explore the stars, to see new worlds. She talked about maybe settling down someday, having a family, but that was far in the future. Right now, she just wanted to fly and protect Earth. You're going to do great things, Elena said softly. I know it. You're going to have a full life, Maria. You're going to see things that make you laugh and cry. You're going to love and be loved. And someday you're going to have a daughter and you'll name her Elena. Maria laughed. That's a pretty specific prediction, Captain. Do you have psychic powers or something? Something like that. Elena reached out and squeezed Maria's hand. Promise me something, Lieutenant. When this battle is over, when the Voidborn are defeated, live your life fully. Don't let fear stop you from doing what makes you happy. Can you promise me that? I promise, Captain. Maria looked confused but sincere. Are you okay? You look like you're about to cry. I'm fine. Just tired. Elena released her hand. You should get back to your squadron. They'll need you ready when the Voidborn arrive. After Maria left, Elena stood at the window, tears running down her face. Chen put a hand on her shoulder. That was hard for you. You have no idea. Seeing her alive, young, full of hope. In my timeline, she died fighting the Voidborn at Mars. She bought time for evacuation ships to escape. She was a hero, but she never got to have the life she dreamed of. Elena wiped her eyes. If we win this battle, she'll have that chance. That's why we came back. Not just to save billions, but to save people like her. People who deserve to live. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. The lights shifted to red alert status. A voice came over the intercom. All hands to battle stations. Long-range sensors have detected the Voidborn fleet. They're entering the system. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 6 hours. Chen and Elena exchanged a look. 6 hours. That was all the time they had left to prepare. They rushed to the bridge. The main view screen showed the sensor data, and Chen felt his blood run cold. The Voidborn fleet was huge. Hundreds of ships, each one a geometric nightmare of black crystal. They moved in perfect formation, like a swarm of predators following a scent. Get me Admiral Chen on the Indomitable and Dominus Kreth on the Crithian flagship, Elena ordered. Within moments, both appeared on split screens. They're here, Chen said unnecessarily. Everyone could see the data. Dominus Kreth's voice rumbled through the speakers. The Voidborn. I had hoped never to see them again. My people have run from them for so long. Today we run no more. Today we stand together, Elena agreed. All ships execute Defense Plan Alpha. Human and Crithian fleets will form a layered defense between the Voidborn and Earth. The Prometheus will anchor the center line. When they get close enough, we hit them with everything we have. The next hours were a blur of preparation. Ships moved into position. Weapons were charged and ready. Shield generators hummed to life, creating overlapping fields of protection. On Earth below, billions of people watched the sky, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Chen found himself back aboard the Indomitable, in his proper place at the head of Earth's fleet. But he felt connected to Elena and the Prometheus, linked by communication systems and shared purpose. Parker stood at his tactical station, calm and ready. Commander Harris manned the weapons console, his earlier anger at the Crithians replaced by grim determination. Sir, the Voidborn fleet is beginning its attack approach, Parker announced. They're not even trying to communicate. They're just coming straight at us. On the view screen, Chen could see them now with visual sensors. The Voidborn ships looked like they had been grown rather than built, all sharp angles and crystalline surfaces that seemed to absorb light. They moved with an eerie grace, turning and shifting in patterns that hurt to watch. All ships hold the line, Chen ordered. Do not fire until they're in optimal range. Make every shot count. The distance closed. 500,000 kilometers. 400,000. 300,000. The void-born ships were clearly visible now, their formations perfect and cold. Range in 60 seconds. Parker counted down. 50 seconds, 40. Chen gripped the arms of his command chair. Around him, the bridge crew waited with controlled fear. This was it. Everything came down to the next few hours. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. Parker's voice was steady. All weapons in range now, sir. Chen took a breath. All ships, open fire. Space exploded with light. Railguns from human ships threw slugs of metal at relativistic speeds. Crithian energy beams, purple and deadly, lanced out toward the enemy. And from the Prometheus, golden beams of quantum energy reached across the void like fingers of God. The void-born shields caught most of the fire, but not all. Several ships exploded, torn apart by the concentrated assault. But the rest kept coming, and now they returned fire. Black beams of energy, cold and terrible, struck the Allied fleet. Ships vanished, simply ceasing to exist where the beams touched them. The shields that had seemed so strong moments ago failed against this unknown technology. We're losing ships, Harris shouted. The void-born weapons are cutting through our shields like they're not even there. Adapt the shield harmonics. Elena's voice came. The battle raged for hours, and space around Earth became a graveyard. Debris from destroyed ships formed clouds of metal and crystal. Bodies drifted in the void, human and Crithian, and the strange geometric fragments of void-born machines. Admiral Chen watched his fleet die ship by ship, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Sir, we've lost the Tokyo and the Berlin. The Crithian cruiser, Shadow of Victory, just went offline. Lieutenant Parker's voice was hoarse from shouting orders. We can't hold them much longer. Chen knew he was right. The Voidborn were too many and their weapons were too powerful. Every tactic the Allied fleet tried, the enemy adapted to within minutes. It was like fighting an opponent who could read your mind and predict your every move. Captain Vasquez, we need options, Chen said into the communication link. The defense is collapsing. Elena's face appeared on his screen. Behind her, the Prometheus bridge was filled with smoke and sparking consoles. I know, Admiral. We're being overwhelmed. The Voidborn are learning faster than I expected. Our weapons are becoming less effective with every minute. Then what do we do? Chen demanded. I'm not giving up Earth without exhausting every option. Elena was quiet for a moment, her face grim. There is one option, but it means the end of the Prometheus and everyone aboard. Chen felt ice in his stomach. Explain. The Prometheus's temporal core, the device that allowed us to travel through time, it's still active. We've been containing it, keeping it stable, but if we destabilize it deliberately, it will create a quantum cascade, a massive explosion that exists in multiple time frames simultaneously. Elena's voice was steady, but Chen could see the pain in her eyes. It will destroy everything in a 50,000-kilometer radius, including the majority of the Voidborn fleet. And the Prometheus, Chen said. And the Prometheus. Elena nodded. We knew this might be necessary. We've been preparing for it since we arrived. My crew understands. We came back to save Earth, Admiral. This is how we do it. Chen wanted to argue to find another way, but he could see the tactical display. The Voidborn were breaking through the defensive lines. In less than an hour, they would be in orbit over Earth, and then billions would die. The choice was terrible but clear. How much time do you need? Chen asked. We have to get deep into their formation, right to the center where their command ships are clustered. It'll take 20 minutes to reach optimal position. Elena smiled sadly. That's not much time to say goodbye to the universe. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Chen broadcast to the fleet. The Prometheus is going to make a final run at the enemy. I want every ship we have to cover their approach. Give them everything you've got. Make the Voidborn look at us, not them. The response was immediate. Human and Crithian ships surged forward, throwing themselves at the Voidborn with desperate fury. Chen knew he was ordering good people to die, but there was no choice. Not anymore. The Prometheus began its final journey. It accelerated toward the heart of the Voidborn formation, its golden weapons firing continuously. Around it, ships exploded and died, but the Prometheus kept going, protected by the sacrifice of its allies. On Earth, Maria Vasquez watched from her fighter as the huge ship drove deeper into the enemy fleet. Something about this felt wrong. Her squadron had been ordered to protect the evacuation of civilians from the coastal cities. But Maria couldn't shake the feeling that she should be up there, fighting alongside that mysterious ship. "Why are they going in alone?" her wingman asked over the radio. "That's suicide." "I don't know," Maria said. But deep down in a place she didn't understand, she thought maybe she did know. The captain of that ship, the woman who shared her name, had looked at her with such sadness and love, like she was saying goodbye to someone precious. Aboard the Prometheus, Elena stood on the bridge surrounded by her crew. These people had come with her from a dark future, knowing they might never go home. Now they were giving their lives to make sure this timeline had a chance. "Status report," Elena said calmly. "We're in position, Captain," her tactical officer reported. "The Voidborn command cluster is in optimal range. Temporal core destabilization can begin on your order." Elena looked around at her crew, these brave souls who had followed her across time itself. "I want to say something before we do this. You all volunteered for this mission knowing it was one way. You gave up everything, your families, your lives, your very existence in the timeline to save people you would never meet. That's not duty. That's not just courage. That's love, and I'm honored to have served with you." Her crew stood straighter. Some had tears on their faces. All of them were ready. "Begin destabilization," Elena ordered. Deep in the heart of the Prometheus, containment fields that had held reality-bending energy in check began to collapse. The temporal core started to pulse with increasing intensity. Time itself began to bend around the ship, creating waves of distortion that spread outward. The Voidborn noticed too late. Their ships tried to pull back, but the temporal distortion was growing too fast. They were caught, trapped by the very laws of physics they had thought they mastered. Elena opened a final communication channel to the Indomitable. "Admiral Chen, it's been an honor. Tell Earth to remember us. Tell them we came from tomorrow to save today." "We'll remember," Chen promised, his voice thick. "The entire galaxy will remember the Prometheus and her crew." Elena smiled. Then she opened another channel, a private one. "Lieutenant Maria Vasquez, this is Captain Elena Vasquez. I need you to listen carefully. Live your life, Maria. Live it fully and freely. Have adventures. Fall in love. Have children and tell them stories about the stars. And when you have a daughter, name her Elena, promise me." Maria's voice came back, confused and frightened. "I promise, Captain." "But why? What's happening?" "Something beautiful," Elena said softly. "Goodbye, grandmother. I love you." She closed the channel before Maria could respond. Around her, the Prometheus was shaking, its hull glowing with impossible light. The temporal core was reaching critical mass. 30 seconds, her science officer counted down. At 20 seconds, Elena thought about her world, the dark future she had come from. She thought about all the people who had died in that timeline, all the suffering and loss, and she thought about this Earth, this timeline where maybe things would be different. 10 seconds. She closed her eyes and saw her grandmother's young face, full of life and hope. 5 seconds. "For Earth," Elena whispered. "For humanity. For everyone who comes after us." The temporal core detonated. Light filled space, but it was light that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The explosion reached backward and forward through time, creating a cascade that touched every moment simultaneously. The Voidborn ships at the center of the formation simply ceased to exist, erased from multiple time frames at once. The ones farther out were torn apart by quantum shockwaves that ignored conventional shields and armor. In less than 3 seconds, 3/4 of the Voidborn fleet was destroyed. The remaining Voidborn ships, damaged and confused, tried to retreat. But the Allied fleet, inspired by the Prometheus's sacrifice, pressed the attack. Human and Crethian ships worked together with perfect coordination, hunting down the survivors and destroying them one by one. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as the last Voidborn ship exploded. The battle was over. Earth was saved, but the price had been terrible. "Count our losses," Chen said quietly. Parker worked his console, his face pale. 48 human ships lost. 23 Crethian vessels. And the Prometheus, he paused. Total casualties are estimated at 57,000. 57,000 lives. And 400 crew members from the future who had given up their entire existence. Chen felt the weight of those numbers crushing him. "Open a channel to all surviving ships," Chen ordered. When Parker nodded, Chen spoke. "This is Admiral Chen. The battle is over. The Voidborn are defeated. Earth is safe. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We won today because people from tomorrow came back to save us. The crew of the Prometheus gave their lives, their very existence, so that we could live. We must never forget their sacrifice, and we must be worthy of it. On Earth, celebrations erupted in the streets. Billions of people who had been certain they would die today found themselves alive and safe. They cheered and cried and held each other close. In her fighter, Maria Vasquez sat quietly, thinking about the woman who had shared her name. The captain who had known things she shouldn't know, who had looked at her with such love, who had told her to live a full life and name her daughter Elena. Maria didn't understand what had happened, but she felt in her heart that she had lost someone important, someone she had never really known but who had cared about her deeply. I promise, she whispered to the stars, I'll live well, and I'll tell my daughter about you. Years passed. The alliance between humanity and the Crithians grew stronger. Together they rebuilt what had been destroyed and created new wonders. They shared technology and culture, learning to see each other not as enemies but as partners in survival. Maria Vasquez became a legendary pilot, then an instructor, then eventually retired to raise a family. She married a kind engineer named Thomas, and they had 3 children. The youngest was a daughter with dark hair and her mother's brave spirit. Thank you for watching, and comment for next par. The alarm systems on the Calraxian Imperial patrol ship screamed warnings across every console. Commander Zekthor's 4 eyes widened as he stared at the readings that made no sense whatsoever. Something had just appeared in their sector of space, and according to his instruments, it should not exist. Report, Zekthor demanded, his translator collar humming as it converted his clicks and whistles into standard Imperial language. Science Officer Plexna's tentacles trembled as she worked her console. Commander, there is a vessel at coordinates 472. It just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. But sir, the energy signature is completely wrong. The reactor core is reading as unstable. Actually, it is beyond unstable. By our calculations, it should have exploded approximately 17 minutes ago. Zekthor felt his scales ripple with unease. In his 40 cycles of service to the Calraxian Empire, he had never encountered a ship that defied basic physics. The Empire had ruled this section of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They knew every species, every technology, every possible ship design. This was something new. Visual scan. Put it on the main screen, he ordered. The screen flickered to life, and every member of the bridge crew fell silent. The vessel before them was unlike anything in the Imperial database. It was crude, angular, and covered in what appeared to be mismatched hull plates. Parts of it were different colors. Burn marks scarred its surface. Most disturbing of all, sections of the outer hull seemed to be held together with some kind of welded patches. By the eternal stars, whispered Plexna. Commander, I am detecting adhesive compounds on critical structural points. They are using some kind of bonding polymer to hold hull sections together. That is impossible, Zekthor said flatly. No civilization would send a vessel into deep space in such condition. It would be suicide, yet there it is, sir. And it is broadcasting a signal. They are attempting to communicate. Zekthor straightened his uniform. First contact protocols were clear, even when dealing with what appeared to be a flying disaster. Open communication channels. Let us see who is brave enough or foolish enough to travel in such a vessel. The screen changed to show the interior of the alien ship. Zekthor felt his breathing slits constrict. The being before him was bipedal, covered in cloth with only patches of fur on its head. It had 2 eyes, a small breathing orifice, and showed its bone structures when its mouth opened. Hello there, the creature said, its voice translated into Imperial Standard. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Mining Consortium ship Indomitable. We come in peace and apologize for the intrusion into your space. Our navigation systems are still being calibrated. This is actually our first trip outside our home system using our new faster-than-light drive. Zekthor blinked all 4 eyes in sequence, a sign of extreme confusion. You are saying this is your first voyage beyond your home system? Yet you have achieved faster-than-light travel? Well, yes, Captain Chen said, smiling. Zekthor's database indicated this facial expression meant friendliness, though showing bone structures seemed aggressive. We tested it successfully 6 months ago. This is our first long-range expedition. We are a mining vessel, searching for resource-rich asteroids and planets. Behind the captain, Zekthor could see other humans moving about. One of them, wearing a different colored cloth covering, was hitting something with a primitive metal tool. Sparks flew from whatever the human was striking. An alarm was clearly sounding in the background. "Captain Chen," Zekthor said carefully, "is your vessel experiencing technical difficulties?" Chen glanced over her shoulder. "Oh, that? No, that is just Rodriguez fixing the plasma conduit. It overheated again during the jump. Happens every third time or so. She will have it sorted in a few minutes." Plexna made a sound that the translator could not convert, something between horror and disbelief. She turned to Zekthor, speaking on their private channel. "Commander, their plasma conduit is failing regularly and they consider this normal operation? And they are repairing critical systems by striking them with a primitive tool?" Zekthor shared his science officer's concern. "Captain Chen, perhaps we should arrange for a proper engineering team to inspect your vessel. The Calraxian Empire has advanced technological capabilities. We could ensure your ship is safe for travel." "That is very kind of you," Chen replied. "We would love to learn more about your technology. Our engineer, Maria Rodriguez, would probably have 1,000 questions, but I assure you the Indomitable is perfectly safe. Well, safe enough anyway. We have been flying her for 8 years now, and she has only had 3 major system failures." "Only 3, Zekthor repeated. Not sure if the translation was working correctly." "Right. And we made it back to Earth each time, so I would call that a success rate worth celebrating." Zekthor turned to his communications officer. "Send an immediate transmission to Imperial Command. Priority level maximum. Tell them we have encountered a species calling themselves humans. They possess faster-than-light technology of unknown origin and unknown stability. They appear to operate vessels in conditions we would consider catastrophically dangerous. Request guidance." While they waited for a response from command, Zekthor continued his conversation with Captain Chen. He learned that humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel through what Chen called a happy accident during a weapons test. They had been trying to create a new type of defensive shield and instead punched a hole in space-time. "We were just as surprised as anyone," Chen explained. "Our lead scientist, Dr. Okonkwo, said we basically stumbled into faster-than-light travel by mistake. But once we figured out how to repeat the process, we decided to see where we could go." The more Zekthor learned, the more disturbed he became. Humanity had achieved in 300 years of space travel what took the Calraxian Empire over 2,000 years. They had done it with primitive materials, dangerous methods, and apparently no understanding of the rules that governed the galaxy. The response from Imperial Command arrived within the hour. It was brief and direct. "Detain the human vessel under peaceful conditions. Do not, under any circumstances, allow them to leave until a full investigation team arrives. Treat them with respect but gather all possible intelligence." Zekthor read the orders twice. He understood the reasoning. If humanity could achieve such things with crude technology, what would they accomplish once they refined their methods? The Empire needed to know if humans were potential allies or potential threats. "Captain Chen," Zekthor said, choosing his words carefully, "the Calraxian Empire would be honored to offer you hospitality. We have a research station nearby with comfortable facilities. Perhaps while you are here we could arrange a cultural exchange. You could learn about our technology and we could learn about yours." Chen appeared to consider this. Behind her, Rodriguez had apparently finished her repairs with the metal tool and was giving a gesture with her thumb extended upward, which the database said meant success or approval. "That sounds wonderful," Chen finally said. "We have been hoping to meet other intelligent species. My crew would love the opportunity. When can we arrange this?" "Immediately," Zekthor said. Perhaps too quickly, judging by the slight change in Chen's expression. "I mean, there is no need to delay when both our peoples could benefit from sharing knowledge." After the communication ended, Plexna approached Zekthor's command chair. "Sir, what are we really doing?" Zekthor's scales darkened, a sign of worry. "We are making sure, Science Officer, that we understand these humans before they understand themselves. Because if they can build a faster-than-light drive by accident and think flying in a ship held together with adhesive and improvised repairs is acceptable, then I fear what they might build on purpose. The Empire must know if we are looking at future friends or future nightmares." He looked at the image of the Indomitable on his screen, that patchwork vessel that defied everything he knew about engineering and safety. Somewhere in the back of his mind a thought formed that he did not want to acknowledge. What if humanity's apparent recklessness was not a weakness, but a completely different way of thinking? What if they did not see limitations the way every other species did? That thought worried him more than anything else. Director Vosnek of Imperial Intelligence had not slept properly in 3 days. The reports coming from Research Station Gamma 9 were beyond disturbing. They were fundamentally challenging everything the Calraxian Empire thought it knew about technological development. She stood in the observation room, watching through reinforced glass as her best scientists examined the human vessel called Indomitable. The humans had been cooperative, even enthusiastic about showing the Calraxians their technology. That enthusiasm only made things worse. Play the recording from yesterday again. Vosnek ordered her assistant. The holographic display showed engineer Maria Rodriguez standing in front of the human ship's reactor core. 3 of the Empire's top reactor scientists stood with her, their tentacles and appendages quivering with barely controlled horror. "So this is a fission reactor," Rodriguez was saying, patting the metal housing like one might pat a domesticated animal. "We know it is old technology, but it works great for us. We have modified it to run at about 300% of the original design specifications." 300%? One of the Calraxian scientists had asked, his translator collar struggling with the squeaking sounds of distress he was making. "The reactor should melt down at those levels. The containment field would fail. The radiation would kill everyone on board." Rodriguez had shrugged, a gesture the Calraxians had learned meant humans were unconcerned. "Yeah, it did that a few times during testing. But we figured out that if we reinforce the containment field with a secondary magnetic array and cool the core with liquid nitrogen, we can push it way harder. Plus, we wrapped extra shielding around the whole thing. Sure, it is heavy, but it works." "You wrapped it? With what?" "Lead plates. And some other stuff. Whatever we had available, really." The recording continued with Rodriguez showing the scientists how humans had jury-rigged their faster-than-light drive. According to her explanation, they had taken a failed weapons experiment, combined it with a mining laser array, and used a computer program that was designed for calculating asteroid trajectories to plot jumps through space-time. Vosnek paused the recording at the moment when one scientist actually fainted, requiring medical attention. "Show me the report on their artificial intelligence system," she said. Her assistant pulled up another file. This one was even worse. The human ship's AI was operating on what the Empire calculated was 1,000% of the processing power it should require. When asked about this, the human computer technician, a young male named David Park, had explained it simply. "We taught it to prioritize better, deleted all the unnecessary processes, got rid of the bloatware." The Calraxian computer scientists had spent 6 hours trying to understand what bloatware meant and why the humans thought it was acceptable to delete what they considered critical system processes. The human AI should have been unable to function. Instead, it was running the entire ship with processing power that the Empire would use for a personal data tablet. "They do not understand what they have done," Vosnek muttered to herself. "They think they are solving problems. They do not realize they are breaking every rule of technological development." A communication came through on her private channel. It was the lead xenotechnology expert, senior researcher Tixall. "Director, you need to come to Lab 7 immediately. We have discovered something about human development that you must see." Vosnek arrived at the lab to find Tixall, surrounded by holographic displays showing human history. The researcher's carapace was flickering colors that indicated extreme agitation. "Director, I have been studying the humans' technological timeline," Tixall explained. "Do you know how long it took them to achieve faster-than-light travel?" "They said approximately 300 years of spaceflight." "Yes, 300 years from their first primitive rockets to punching holes in space-time." "Director, it took the Calraxian Empire 2,000 years. It took the Vex Collective 1,500 years. Every known civilization in the galaxy took at least 1,000 years. The humans did it in less than a third of that time. How is that possible?" Tixall brought up more displays. "Because they do not follow the normal development path. Look at this. Most species develop their technology in a logical progression. Safe, tested, proven steps from one level to the next. Humans skip steps. They try things that should not work. When those things fail, they study the failure and try something else. They call it trial and error. That sounds incredibly wasteful and dangerous. It is both. But it is also incredibly fast. Director, look at this example. They tried to create a fusion reactor for 70 years before they succeeded. 70 years of failures. Any other species would have given up and tried a different approach. Humans just kept trying variations until something worked. Vosnek studied the data. What are you saying, researcher? I am saying that humans do not know what is impossible. Or rather, they know, but they do not care. They try impossible things anyway. Sometimes they fail. But sometimes they succeed in doing something that should not be possible. And that is how they leapfrog ahead of civilizations that have been in space for thousands of years longer than they have. A cold feeling spread through Vosnek's core. Project forward. If they continue at this rate, what happens? Tixel's colors shifted to a deep, worried purple. In 50 years, they will match our technology. In 100 years, they will exceed it. In 200 years, I cannot even predict what they will be capable of. Especially if we share our technology with them. Why especially then? Because they do not use technology the way we do, Director. We perfect our technology before implementing it. Humans implement it, break it, fix it, and improve it through constant modification. If we give them our technology, they will not just copy it. They will change it in ways we cannot anticipate. Vosnek needed to sit down. She activated a rest platform and sank onto it. The High Council needs to know about this. They need to understand what we are dealing with. She returned to her office and began compiling her report, but she was interrupted by another urgent message. This one was from the station commander. Director, we have a situation. Captain Chen has requested to see our military shipyards. She wants to see how we build our warships. Absolutely not, Vosnek said immediately. We cannot show them our military capabilities. Director, she says her government will be offended if we do not reciprocate the openness they have shown us. She pointed out that they have let us examine their only faster-than-light vessel. She is asking why we will not show them ours. Vosnek cursed in 3 different languages. The human had a point. The Empire had asked to see everything about human technology. Refusing to show their own would be seen as hostile. Very well, but limit the tour to civilian shipyards only. No military facilities. The tour happened 2 days later. Vosnek watched through security feeds as Captain Chen and Engineer Rodriguez walked through one of the Empire's civilian construction facilities. The humans were impressed by the clean, automated processes, the precision manufacturing, the quality control systems. But then Rodriguez asked a question that made Vosnek's scales stand on end. This is amazing technology, but why does it take 3 years to build a ship this size? We could build this in about 8 months. The Calraxian engineer giving the tour had looked confused. Quality control requires extensive testing at each phase. We must ensure every component meets exact specifications before proceeding to the next step. Safety protocols demand no less. But what if you tested as you went? Built and fixed problems as they came up? Rodriguez asked. That would be extremely dangerous and inefficient. Would it, though? I mean, you would finish faster, and you could improve the design during construction based on what you learned. The Calraxian engineer had no response to that. It went against everything the Empire believed about construction and safety. That evening, Vosnek sent her report to the High Council. She marked it with the highest priority classification. Her conclusion was simple but terrifying. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel with primitive technology, dangerous methods, and no respect for established limitations. They improved through failure rather than through careful planning. They took risks that would horrify any other species. And they had done all of this completely isolated, with no guidance from advanced civilizations. The question was not whether humanity would become a major power in the galaxy. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what would happen when humans started learning from other species and applying their unique approach to alien technology. Vosnek ended her report with a recommendation. The Calraxian Empire should establish a defensive pact with humanity immediately, not because humans were a threat right now, but because they would become one eventually. Better to have them as friends than as enemies. She sent the report and hoped the Council would listen. Because if they did not, Vosnek suspected the Empire might learn a very hard lesson about underestimating species that did not follow the rules. The border region between the Calraxian Empire and the Thex conglomerate had been tense for months. Both sides had assembled fleets, each watching the other across the invisible line that separated their territories. Commander Zekthor, now assigned as the official Calraxian liaison to humanity, found himself at Proxima Station with a very uncomfortable feeling. Captain Chen had offered to position the Indomitable as neutral ground for peace negotiations. The humans, being new to galactic politics, thought they could help. Zekthor had tried to explain that these tensions had existed for centuries, but Chen had simply smiled that bone-showing smile and said that sometimes a fresh perspective helped. Now Zekthor stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching as representatives from both sides met aboard the human vessel. The Indomitable sat directly on the border, equidistant from both fleets. It was either very brave or very foolish. With humans, Zekthor had learned these were often the same thing. "Sir, we are detecting unusual activity in the Thex fleet," his sensor officer reported. 3 ships are breaking formation. Zekthor felt his scales prickle with alarm. "Identify those ships. They are Thex assault carriers, sir. They are moving toward the border at high speed. This was bad, very bad." Zekthor opened a channel to Captain Chen. "Captain, you need to move your ship immediately. There are hostile vessels approaching." Chen appeared on his screen, looking concerned but not panicked. Behind her, Zekthor could see the Thex and Calraxian negotiators looking at each other with suspicion. "Commander, if we move now, both sides will think we are taking sides. We need to stay neutral." "Captain, you do not understand. Those are extremist vessels. They do not want peace. They want war." Before Chen could respond, every alarm on Zekthor's bridge activated at once. His weapons officer shouted across the bridge, "Sir, the Thex vessels have launched a planet-killer weapon. It is targeting Proxima Station." Zekthor's world seemed to slow down. A planet-killer weapon. The most powerful weapon in the known galaxy. It could destroy entire worlds. Against a space station, it was massive overkill. But it would also destroy the Indomitable and everyone aboard it, including the negotiators from both sides. "Raise shields. Maximum power. Try to intercept the weapon." "Sir, our shields cannot stop a planet killer." "No shields can. Impact in 90 seconds. Zekthor was preparing to order a full evacuation when something unexpected happened. The Indomitable suddenly lit up with power readings that made his sensors scream in protest. "What are they doing?" his science officer asked. On the screen, Captain Chen had turned to someone off camera. "Rodriguez, can we stop that thing?" Engineer Maria Rodriguez stepped into view, holding what appeared to be a hot beverage. "Maybe. It will blow out every system on the ship, but maybe." "Do it." Rodriguez took a long drink of her beverage and handed it to someone else. "All right, everyone, we are about to do something really stupid. Divert all power to the forward mining laser array, and I mean all power. Life support, engines, gravity, everything." Zekthor watched in horror and fascination as the human ship began shutting down every system. The lights visible through the portholes went dark. The engines powered down, but the forward section of the ship began to glow with accumulated energy. 70 seconds to impact, his weapons officer counted down. On the Indomitable, Rodriguez was working her controls frantically. "Okay, we have got about 300% more power than this array was designed to handle. If I am right about the math, we can create a focused graviton beam." "If you are right?" Chen asked. "No time for testing, Captain." 40 seconds. Zekthor could only watch as the human ship charged a weapon that should not exist. A mining laser array could not create a graviton beam. It was impossible. The power requirements alone were beyond what the Indomitable could generate. But Rodriguez was routing power from every system, including the reactor's safety mechanisms. She was overloading the reactor to dangerous levels again, but this time on purpose. 20 seconds. Rodriguez counted down. 15, 10, firing. The Indomitable unleashed a beam of energy that lit up every sensor for light years. Zekthor's eyes hurt from looking at the screen. The beam struck the planet-killer weapon and wrapped around it like a physical hand. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the weapon's trajectory began to change. Slowly at first, then faster. Rodriguez was using the graviton beam to push the weapon away from the station, away from the fleets, out into empty space. "Hull temperature critical," Rodriguez reported calmly. "Reactor at 400% capacity. We are going to lose main power in 5, 4, 3, 2. The beam cut off. The Indomitable went completely dark. But the planet-killer weapon continued on its new course, sailing harmlessly into empty space where it detonated far from anything important. Zekthor realized he had been holding his breath. Around his bridge, his crew was staring at the screens in shocked silence. The Thex fleet was in chaos, the extremist ships fleeing before they could be held accountable. "Get medical teams to the Indomitable immediately," Zekthor ordered. "They will have casualties from life support failure." But when his rescue teams arrived at the human ship, they found something that made no sense. The humans were fine. Uncomfortable, certainly. They were floating in zero gravity, breathing from emergency oxygen tanks, and several small fires were burning in unattended sections. But they were alive and already beginning repairs. "Rodriguez, what happened?" Chen was asking as she used a fire extinguisher on a control panel. "What happened? We just pumped the equivalent of a battle station's power output through a mining laser. Every system is fried. Life support is gone. Artificial gravity is offline. The reactor is in emergency shutdown. Hull integrity is at 60%, and I am pretty sure the coffee maker exploded. But we are alive." "Yeah, Captain. We are alive. And so is everyone at that station." Rodriguez pushed herself through zero gravity to another console and began pulling panels off to access the wiring underneath. "Give me about 6 hours and I can get life support back online. Maybe 12 for engines." The Calraxian rescue team leader approached Chen in the darkness. "Captain, we need to evacuate your crew. Your ship is not safe." Chen looked around at her crew, who were already pulling out tools and beginning repair work by flashlight. "Thanks for the offer, but we have been in worse situations. We will stay with our ship." "Worse than this?" "Sure. There was that time near Jupiter when we lost engines and life support for 3 days. Or the incident at the Mars colony when the reactor actually did shut down. We are used to making repairs under difficult conditions." The rescue team leader had no response to that. He returned to his shuttle and reported to Zekthor that the humans had declined evacuation and were repairing their ship in the dark, in zero gravity with fires still burning in some sections. Zekthor immediately called an emergency meeting of both fleet commanders. The Thex commander was already offering apologies and promising to deal with the extremist faction. But Zekthor barely heard the diplomatic discussions. His mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about what the Indomitable had done. That ship, that improvised mining vessel held together with determination and improvised repairs, had just accomplished something that would require a battle station's power output. A ship with a crew of 30 had stopped a weapon that should have destroyed thousands, and they had done it by overloading every system, ignoring every safety protocol, and just trying something that should have been impossible. Later, when his shift ended, Zekthor sent a private message to Director Vosenek at Imperial Intelligence. The message was brief but urgent. "Director, we need to revise our threat assessment of humanity. Today I watched them stop a planet-killer weapon with a mining ship. They achieved this by deliberately breaking their own vessel and accepting catastrophic damage as an acceptable trade-off. The ship is heavily damaged. There are fires throughout multiple decks. Every system is offline, and the humans are already repairing it, expecting to have it operational within hours. They treated this emergency as what they called a bad Tuesday. If this is what they consider a minor inconvenience, what would they do if they were actually trying to show their capabilities? More importantly, what would an actual human warship be capable of?" He sent the message and turned back to watch the Indomitable. In the darkness, he could see flashlights moving inside the hull as humans crawled through damaged sections, repairing their ship through sheer stubbornness. Already some sections were starting to show lights again as power was restored. The galaxy was not ready for humanity. Zekthor was certain of that now. The only question was whether anyone would listen to his warnings before it was too late. High Counselor Vrex had ruled the Calraxian Empire for 23 cycles. He had seen wars, plagues, economic collapses, and the rise and fall of civilizations. He considered himself unshakable, but the human delegation was testing that confidence. The High Council chamber was the most impressive room in the capital. Carved from a single piece of crystal stone, it had witnessed 10,000 years of imperial history. Today, it was full of the Empire's most important leaders, all gathered to inspect what they believed was humanity's secret military power. They had been convinced that Earth was hiding massive war fleets, that the Indomitable was merely a scout ship, testing the galaxy before humanity revealed its true strength. Director Vosenek's reports had only reinforced this belief. If humans could do such things with a mining ship, their actual military must be incredible. Captain Chen stood before the council with Engineer Rodriguez and 3 other human representatives. They looked small in the enormous chamber, but they showed no signs of fear or nervousness. "Captain Chen," Vrex began, his voice echoing through the crystal walls, "the Calraxian Empire wishes to see Earth's orbital defense systems and your military fleet. We believe it is time for complete transparency between our peoples." Chen nodded. "Of course, High Counselor. We have nothing to hide. We would be happy to show you everything. That seemed too easy. Rex exchanged glances with the other council members. Everything. Your military shipyards, your defense stations, your weapons development facilities. Sure, though I should mention we do not have much to show. We are pretty new to all of this. 2 weeks later, Rex found himself aboard an Imperial diplomatic vessel approaching Earth's solar system. He had brought his top military advisors and intelligence officers. They were all expecting to see something that would explain humanity's apparent technological prowess. What they found instead shook them to their core. Earth's orbital space was busy with activity, but it was not the activity of a military power. The humans had constructed various stations and satellites, but they were clearly civilian in nature. Communication arrays, scientific research platforms, manufacturing facilities. There was a defense grid of satellites, but Rex's military advisor took one look at them and made a sound of disbelief. High Counselor, those defense satellites are held together with the same improvised construction methods as the Indomitable. Some of them appear to be using what I can only describe as optimistic engineering. That one over there has solar panels attached with mechanical bolts that are clearly not original to the design. What are you saying? I am saying their orbital defense grid would not stop a serious military assault. It is adequate for protecting against small threats like asteroids or pirates, but against a real fleet, it would last minutes at best. Rex felt a strange sensation. It took him a moment to identify it as confusion. But they stopped a planet-killer weapon. We saw it. Yes, sir, they did. I have no explanation for how that is possible. Captain Chen met them at Earth's primary space station, a rotating ring structure that looked reasonably well built, but was clearly designed for civilian use. She seemed genuinely happy to show them around. This is our main hub for space operations, she explained, as they walked through corridors filled with humans going about their daily business. We built it about 15 years ago. It houses about 5,000 people and serves as a construction platform for our other space projects. Where are your military vessels? Rex asked directly. We only have 7 faster-than-light capable ships, Chen said. The Indomitable is one of them. The others are similar designs, all converted from civilian vessels. Mining ships, mostly. We have some plans to build dedicated exploration ships, but the faster-than-light drive is still so new that we are being careful about expanding too quickly. Rex's intelligence officer leaned close to whisper in his ear. High Counselor, I have been scanning the system. She is telling the truth. There are only 7 ships capable of faster-than-light travel, and all of them match the Indomitable's design philosophy. That is impossible. They must be hiding their real fleet somewhere. Sir, I have scanned every planet, every moon, every asteroid field. This is everything they have. Rex felt something he had not experienced in many years. He felt lost. Nothing made sense anymore. Chen continued the tour, showing them Earth's various space facilities. The largest construction project was a massive vessel being built from a hollowed asteroid. It was enormous, easily 5 times the size of an Imperial dreadnought. That is our generation ship project, Chen explained proudly. We are planning to send colonists to a nearby star system. It will take about 80 years to get there without faster-than-light travel, so we are building a ship that can support multiple generations. Though now that we have faster-than-light technology, we are debating whether to still send it or redesign it as a mobile station. Rex stared at the massive construction. This is not a warship? A warship? No, High Counselor. This is a colony ship. It will carry about 10,000 people along with supplies, equipment, and everything needed to establish a new settlement. But it is enormous. You could mount weapons on this that would rival anything in the galaxy. Chen looked at the ship with a puzzled expression. I suppose you could, but that is not what it is for. We built it to carry people, not to fight. Rex's military advisor was making calculations on his datapad. High Counselor, if they mounted weapons on that vessel, it would be the largest warship ever created. The armor plating alone would make it nearly indestructible, and they are building it from an asteroid, which means the raw materials cost them almost nothing. But Chen was already moving on, showing them the various satellites and smaller stations. She pointed out a research facility studying solar radiation, a manufacturing plant that produced new hull materials, a farm station that grew food in zero gravity. It was all civilian, all peaceful, all focused on expansion and exploration, not conquest or war. That evening, the Imperial delegation gathered in their ship to discuss what they had seen. Frex looked around at his advisors, all of whom seemed as confused as he felt. "This makes no sense," Frex said. "We have seen what the Indomitable can do. We have seen humans achieve things that should be impossible, yet their military is virtually non-existent." Director Vosnek, who had joined them for this visit, spoke quietly. "High Counselor, I think we have been asking the wrong question. Explain. We have been asking where their military fleet is, what weapons they are hiding. But what if they are not hiding anything? What if this really is everything they have? Then how did they stop a planet-killer weapon? Because they were not trying to demonstrate military power. They were trying to save lives. They did not use a warship. They used what they had available, a mining ship, and they pushed it beyond all reasonable limits to accomplish their goal." Vrex began to understand. "You are saying the Indomitable is not a weak example of human capability. It is a perfect example." "Exactly. Humans do not build specialized tools for every situation. They take whatever they have and make it work for whatever they need. The Indomitable stopped a planet killer because the humans aboard her decided that was what needed to happen, and they found a way to make it happen." Vrex's military advisor added his thoughts. "High Counselor, we have been thinking about this wrong. We assumed humans were hiding a powerful military. But what if their strength is not in their military at all? What if their strength is in their ability to turn anything into a weapon when necessary? That colony ship," another advisor said, "they could turn that into the most powerful warship in the galaxy. But they will not unless they have to." Vrex felt a chill run through his body. "Because if they needed to, they would simply convert it, the same way they converted mining ships for exploration." Vosnik nodded. "And they would do it quickly without the years of planning and testing that we would require. They would just start building and fix problems as they appeared." Silence filled the room as everyone absorbed this realization. Finally, Vrex spoke. "We came here expecting to find a hidden threat. Instead, we found something more terrifying. We found a species that does not build for war, but could become a military power faster than we can respond if they ever needed to. What do we do, High Counselor?" Vrex thought about his options. The Empire could try to limit human expansion. They could refuse to share technology. They could treat humanity as a potential threat, or they could do something smarter. "We make them our allies," Vrex said firmly. "We offer them a full technology exchange and a defensive pact. We share our knowledge with them, and they share theirs with us. But sir, if we give them our technology, they will advance even faster." "Yes, which is why we must ensure they have no reason to ever become our enemies. Because right now, humanity is focused on exploration and expansion. They are thinking about colony ships and scientific research. But if we make them feel threatened, if we try to contain them, they will start thinking about defense. And once they start thinking about defense, they will build weapons. And based on what we have seen, their weapons will be unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen." Vrex stood up, his decision made. "I will propose the alliance to the High Council when we return. Captain Chen and her people will be our friends, not because we fear them now, but 1 year had passed since the Calraxian Empire and humanity signed their defensive pact and technology exchange agreement. Commander Zekthor, now permanently assigned as the Imperial liaison to Earth, stood in the observation deck of a joint Empire-human shipyard in orbit around Mars. He was watching something that filled him with equal parts fascination and dread. Humanity was building its first purpose-built warship. The vessel was enormous, larger than anything in humanity's current fleet, but smaller than an Imperial dreadnought. It hung in the construction frame like a predator waiting to be born. Engineers from both species swarmed over its hull, but Zekthor had learned to spot the difference. The Calraxian engineers worked methodically, following plans exactly. The human engineers worked in organized chaos, constantly modifying designs as they built. Engineer Maria Rodriguez floated up beside him in zero gravity, a tablet computer in her hands and a smile on her face. Over the past year, she had become the chief designer for humanity's military vessel program. The Calraxian engineers were both impressed and terrified by her. "What do you think, Commander?" she asked, gesturing at the ship. "Pretty impressive, right? I think I am afraid to see it completed," Zekthor said honestly. Rodriguez laughed. "You and half my team. Even some of the human engineers think we have gone too far. But Captain Chen wanted a ship that could protect Earth and our colonies, so that is what we built." "Tell me about it," Prepare me for what? The High Council will see when they come for the christening ceremony tomorrow. Rodriguez pulled up schematics on her tablet. Okay, so we started with the basic Calraxian heavy cruiser design that you shared with us. Great ship, very solid, very safe. Then we made some modifications. What kind of modifications? Well, first we took your shield technology and combined it with our overclocked reactor design. Your shields are powered at conservative levels for safety. We figured out that if we pump more power into them, they get stronger. A lot stronger. Zekthor felt his scales tingle with concern. How much stronger? About 5 times standard strength. Maybe 6 times if we really push it. Rodriguez, those shields will burn out in minutes at those power levels. Yeah, probably. But for those few minutes, this ship will be able to take hits that would destroy anything else in its class. And we can replace shield generators quickly. We designed them to be modular. What else did you modify? Rodriguez scrolled through her notes. The weapon systems, we simplified them. Zekthor knew he was going to regret asking, but he had to know. How do you simplify weapon systems? We removed most of the safety protocols and limiters. Your weapons are designed to fire at a steady, sustainable rate. Ours fire as fast as the mechanisms can cycle. We tripled the fire rate. The weapons will overheat and fail. Yep. So we designed them to be easily replaceable too. Pop out the burned one, slot in a fresh one, keep firing. We have enough spare weapons in the armory to replace every gun on the ship 3 times. Zekthor was beginning to understand a pattern. You built this ship expecting it to break. We built this ship expecting it to take damage and keep fighting. There is a difference. In our old naval history on Earth, there were ships that were marvels of engineering but sank from a single torpedo. And there were ships that were held together with rust and determination but survived dozens of battles. We decided to build the second type. She swiped to another schematic. No redundant systems. Everything is cross-connected. The reactor can power weapons, shields, engines, life support, whatever we need in the moment. Any computer can run any program. Any power conduit can feed any system. If something breaks, we can reroute around it. That sounds incredibly dangerous. It is. But it also means we can keep fighting even with 60% of the ship damaged. Traditional ships lose capability as they take damage. This one just gets more creative. Zekthor thought about the implications. What you are describing is not a warship. It is a ship that refuses to die. Rodriguez's smile grew wider. Now you are getting it. We call her the Unconquerable. Next day, the christening ceremony was attended by representatives from multiple galactic civilizations. The Calraxian High Council was there in force. Captain Sarah Chen, promoted to admiral, was given the honor of officially naming the vessel and taking command of its maiden voyage. After the ceremony, Admiral Chen offered to give High Counselor Vrex a personal tour. Zekthor joined them, curious to see the counselor's reaction. The tour started normally enough. The Unconquerable's bridge was clean and modern, combining Calraxian design aesthetics with human practicality. But as they went deeper into the ship, Vrex's expression began to change. Why are there access panels everywhere? He asked. Easy access to all critical systems, Chen explained. Any crew member can reach any major component within minutes. If something breaks during a battle, we do not have time to cut through walls to fix it. They passed through the engineering section, where human crew members were practicing damage control drills. What made Zekthor's scales stand on end was that the drills involved actually damaging systems and then racing to repair them. They are setting fires on purpose, Vrex observed. Training has to be realistic, Chen said. If the crew is going to fix damage during a real battle, they need to practice doing it under pressure. We actually damage the ship during drills so they know what to expect. That is insane. That is necessary. Our people need to know that equipment will fail, things will break, and fires will happen. The ship is designed to keep fighting through all of that, but only if the crew knows how to make it happen. They moved to the weapons deck. Vrex stopped, in front of a plasma cannon that was clearly more powerful than anything in the Calraxian fleet. This weapon should not be able to fire from a ship this size, Vrex said. The power requirements are too high. Rodriguez, who had joined the tour, patted the weapon housing. It can fire exactly 4 times before it burns out. Then we swap it for a fresh one. See those racks over there? Spare weapons? We can replace any gun on the ship in under 3 minutes. You built disposable weapons. We built weapons that maximize offensive capability at the cost of longevity. Different philosophy than yours, but it works for us. The tour continued, and with each section, Vrex became more quiet and thoughtful. Finally, they reached the reactor room. Zekthor had already seen it, but watching Vrex's reaction was educational. The reactor was a hybrid of Calraxian fusion technology and human engineering philosophy. It could be operated at standard safe levels, or it could be pushed to extreme outputs that would make any Calraxian engineer faint. There is a manual override for everything, Vrex noticed, pointing at the control panels. Of course, Chen said. If the computer systems fail, or if we need to do something the computer thinks is too dangerous, we can control everything manually. Even the reactor core? Especially the reactor core. If we need emergency power, someone can physically override the safeties and push it as hard as necessary. Vrex turned to face Chen directly. Admiral, I need you to understand something. This ship terrifies me. That is a strong reaction, High Counselor. It should be. I have been in the military for 40 cycles. I have seen countless ship designs from dozens of species. This is the first ship I have ever seen that feels alive, like it has a will to survive. That is the idea, Chen said simply. This ship is not just machinery. It is a tool that our crew can use creatively. It adapts to situations. It can be operated in ways we have not planned for yet because we gave it the flexibility to do anything necessary. Before Vrex could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Chen immediately activated her communication device. Admiral, we have a situation, came a voice from the bridge. Pirate fleet just appeared in system. 20 ships. They are demanding our surrender. Chen looked at Vrex. I apologize, High Counselor, but I need to deal with this. Commander Zekthor will escort you to a safe location. Wait, Vrex said. I want to see this ship in action. Chen hesitated, then nodded. Very well, but stay on the bridge and keep out of the way. The bridge was controlled chaos as the crew prepared for battle. The pirate fleet was larger than expected, and their ships were well armed. They had probably thought they were attacking a single new vessel on its maiden voyage, an easy target. They were very wrong. The battle was unlike anything Zekthor had seen. The Unconquerable took hits that should have disabled it, but the crew just rerouted power around damaged sections and kept fighting. When the shields finally failed after absorbing impossible amounts of damage, the crew simply transferred all that power to weapons and increased their fire rate. A plasma cannon burned out from overuse. The crew had it replaced in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. An engine took a direct hit and exploded. The crew sealed that section, rerouted engine control to the remaining engines, and maintained combat speed. The pirates were trying to disable a ship that refused to be disabled. They were fighting an enemy that treated catastrophic damage as a minor inconvenience. After 20 minutes of combat, 15 pirate ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 5 surrendered. The Unconqueror,